Yeah, and she essentially mentioned it'd be good if we could get the ball rolling, but
Yeah.
uh, what would that ball be? Uh, and so maybe that's something that we answer today, if there is a ball and what it is, and uh, what do we want some initiative to be, or if the answer is nothing, then that's okay too, I guess.
Yeah, indeed, the previous sessions were to introduce themselves, each other, and to try to start something. The only thing we start for now is the Slack uh, document,
Yes.
how to use Slack with a screen reader.
Right.
As well, on my side, I did some interview and I create a document at the same place as the Slack document is on the Google Workspace drive.
Okay.
And then we can start with that content and iterate in between every sessions and do asynchronous jobs and synchronize on Slack or on GitHub if we push some commits to update documentation publicly, etc. Usually it's like that. I'm working with other projects. So
Yeah. Well, what was your interviewing topic?
let me check. So basically, I would like to create content and instead of just during the session discussing only, I have a 1 hour one meeting with every person that were available at the beginning of the project,
Right. Okay.
and I just would like to know what are their current issue with the project they try to connect with or with the community the community and how to improve and what could be as well some useful something to put in place for conferences to ease blind and visually impaired people to join easier and stuff
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
So
Okay.
it was around everything. I gathered some information there and probably
So
can reuse the content I already have to iterate from this to create some document.
right. So folks earlier on had some input in terms of these kind of resources would be useful. Um, and that went into your interview document. And um, it sounds like those folks were originally part of this gathering, this group. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
it was at the beginning were more people joining the sessions,
Mhm.
and probably not everyone are available at the same time every month. So we can initiate the first document, and then as soon as we start, it will the opportunity to contribute will be easier because we will start something, and without anything, it's difficult to let others to join the initiative we are working on. I know most of the time I started some initiative. For instance, I worked to translate the glossary in French,
Hmm.
and at the beginning we were only two, and then as soon as someone see that we can manage to do this translation, the group grows, and then we got more contribution afterwards.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and the link to the working group folder is on Slack in the bookmarks tabs. I don't know if you have access to it right
Yeah, I
now.
can look in it sounds like it's in the Google Drive folder.
Yes, exactly.
So I'll look in there. Yeah.
And then if you go through, I lost my window. Where are you? And then here you have both the document for Slack, using Slack with a screen reader, and I as well the document for the interview is not interview in the best practice docs folder.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I created the kind of a separate document instead of carving up the good document that Harsh had created
Okay.
because I realized that my approach was going to be pretty minimalist, and so I thought rather than request access to edit his document and then make a inordinate amount of changes, I would just create sort of my vision of what might be useful, and then people can take a look and uh, we can have some sort of dialogue or not. Um, so that's why there's a separate document there. My
Yeah.
approach was to leverage the resources that already exist and not repeat a lot of resources that we would then have to maintain as things change and so on and so forth, because there's YouTube videos from Slack that are still useful. There's other Slack documentation about using a screen reader, that there's documentation about the hotkeys. I tried to explain in my doc where the existing content is useful and the kind of things that people can get from that existing content and link to it, and then still provide some kind of bullets to help fast track people's onboarding experience with Slack and a screen reader without repeating too much. So that was my short and sweet attempt to have a useful document that wasn't potentially overwhelming, and that kind of thing. Thinking about the perspective of a person who wanted to read a document about how to use Slack with a screen reader in the first place, trying my best to put myself in those shoes, because that's not the situation that I'm in, but I can empathize with, how it might be for someone who is trying to use Slack and finds it challenging, et cetera. So anyway,
Yeah.
but we need dialogue and we need, participation if we want to publish something, of course. So I'm not sure where we go from here, but
So okay, I got your point.
Mhm.
I will have a look on your document. I already read the one from, I don't remember who we writing that first. So we can create uh, a web page inside the tag strategy, contributor strategy
Mhm.
there. Um, I will have a look to create folder here for blind and visually impaired initiative, and start to get content there. Probably we'll need as well a one pager first to introduce the initiative, and then point to this document
Yeah.
inside the web page as well. I don't know if you know that project on CNCF tag contributor strategy. There is a web page there. I will just share with you the link. So basically, this is the GitHub page. There is the chat button. Chat here.
Hey, hi. This is
Hey
really
there.
embarrassing. You know what happened? I clicked on the Zoom link and I just saw that, like, I didn't click twice, so I didn't log in. It was like I'm the only one in here.
Okay.
It happens.
I was like, why is no one showing up? That's because I was multitasking. Anyways, how are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. We were just sort of talking. Stefan was describing to me the interviews that he had done before with some previous participants of this group to kind of collect some, opinion of this, that, and the other type of things would be useful. And so then we were kind of talking again about the Slack doc And that's essentially it so far.
Okay.
So.
Yes,
Um,
it's suggested to create something similar that you already managed to have for the different art of hearing page on the tag contributor strategy webpage, and I shared on the chat the link to the GitHub project, and I'm looking for the web pages of them.
you're looking for what?
The web page that is behind the Git that's I guess there. So for instance, for deer, I found it.
The
For the
accessibility.
ordering people, so it's there. So basically, we can do something similar, and then create this front page that presents our initiative, and then have some links on extra documentation like the one we have for Slack, and continue to iterate starting from here.
Yeah. So basically, yeah. So that you shared already the about and the part of accessibility that is where we could have like we have like a drop down for deaf and hard of hearing, and then we could have one for blind and visually impaired, and then have all the accessibility documentation in there.
And is it the most useful to create that resource, and it's okay if it's kind of sparse as it potentially slowly evolves?
Yes.
It's better to have something small
Yes.
than nothing, right?
Yes.
It's not a negative to progress that way.
No, and basically all of these are, or the goal, our goal is for these to be working documents, so they're always improving.
Hmm.
And once they're out there, we can start sending people to it. And it's like, ideally people would kind of make suggestions and say like, hey, I think this, because it's an open source website, right? So anyone
Right.
can kind of submit a
Do
PR
pull requests
with an
yeah.
improved, yeah. So definitely having something is better than nothing. And I love your attitude, because I know a lot of people, especially in the deaf and hard of hearing working, they're very hesitant to submit up here, and I'm like, no, just submit something. It's never, it doesn't have to be perfect, and perfect is the enemy of good. And so I love your attitude, because it's like, yeah, let's just publish something and iterate from there.
Right, as long as you hope it's useful, right, for readership, for audiences. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if those are things that you thought were interesting for you, or if you think like, oh, I wish I had known this before I started using Slack more regularly, it most definitely isn't valuable for someone else, right? So,
Right. Sort of, I think it's a double-edged sword. So if I think about the Slack example, um, I don't know that, when I learned Slack, there was no doc per se. There was some existing resources. There was a Slack accessibility team that was in the earlier stages of establishing itself. And so some things existed. And I probably talked to one person who used Slack a little bit, but mostly I played around and learned it, and Slack has evolved a lot over the years as well. And sometimes it's more accessible, sometimes it's less. And so personally, I don't know if a document that is some kind of screen reader Slack primer is going to be super useful. I'm not opposed to it at all.
yeah. I
Hence,
know that
yeah.
there was one person who had a lot of issues. Like she hasn't joined in a while, but like she was like saying she's really struggling with Slack. So
Yeah.
I mean,
So the thing that I think is most important is that if we take that person as an example, and if they would be the ideal audience to look at these two docs that we have, or to have a discussion, or to give feedback. And in lieu of that, like if that person's not available or doesn't want to, that's okay. But then the only other thing we can do is either not publish a doc if we believe there's not that much of a need, or publish, make choices and publish something. And then that doc may or may not hit the mark for an audience that would find it useful. So time is sort of precious, and so we'd like to, I think I would anyway, I'd like to work towards creating resources that are going to be the biggest bang for our buck, for our effort. And I haven't yet looked at the interview doc because I want to be present on this call and not read a thing, but I will look at that doc, and maybe we come up with like we should publish the Slack thing because it exists, and then pick some next resource to create. And we run some small risk of creating a bunch of stuff in a vacuum, although we're pretty reasonable people, so I think we can create things that will be relatively useful. But we don't want to create, like 50 docs with if we see that there's no feedback from any audience, there's a danger in creating a bunch of stuff in a vacuum. So I think we want to keep a balance there. Let's create some stuff, and hopefully we'll get some feedback of some sort.
Yeah. I can share. I think she is not on the. I forgot. Joyce was her name. Joyce. I don't see her in the Slack anymore. So I can send that via email and kind of say like, hey, we were talking about how to make Slack, like creating a document to make Slack more accessible for people using screen readers, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to have a look? And maybe like see if she responds within, she doesn't have to provide feedback within a week, but at least like respond within a week.
Right.
And if not, it's like, well, we won't have her input. Yeah, and then at least we have one person who kind of was struggling and may benefit from it, like looking at it.
Because that's sort of why it was written, right? Or that's why it was chosen as a useful thing, because there was a person who expressed this is hard. And so in response to that, you all and Harsh created that doc, etc. And then I had a bunch of ideas and I created a thing. And so yeah, we want it to be useful for the audience that sort of spawned its existence. If we can get that. If we can't, because she's busy, etc., which is perfectly okay, then the choice we have is to choose some version of the two documents and publish something and iterate, which is then what we should do, I think.
Started an email just so I don't forget.
Cool.
Okay, so I'll do that. Also, so I'm working on a panel discussion for the deaf and hard of hearing, and I know that Alex wanted to go. So I'm kind of like, I have a team where I wanted to kind of think about a talk where we have like Alex join and then some other deaf members to like talk about accessibility and things like that. So I need to brainstorm the idea still, but this, because I was like, we submitted several panel discussions already. So it's like, what is the new angle?
Yeah.
This is the last week before the deadline. So yeah, I wanted to make sure, since we had one representative from this group going, that they are also part of the panel discussion.
Great. Okay, great.
You mean for KubeCon US?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's always difficult because it's like they only accept one accessibility or diversity talk.
Okay.
It's
Right.
like, and then because it's a tech conference after all, right? And yeah, coming up with, and it's also like, for me, it's like, okay, this is like, we've got 5 slots with that, like, because we want to raise the amount of speakers, either before it was deaf, now deaf and blind, kind of being on stage, so we can say like, hey, we had like, so it's like with the panel, you get 5 on stage. So it's also like this, how can you help raise the numbers, but we want also like have like technical talks and so on. So Alex, I teamed him up with someone to submit a technical talk as well, because he was hesitant to do one on his own, but he was willing to teaming up. So hopefully,
Okay.
hopefully we get a technical talk as well.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
And next time, Ivan, you're on the hook. I know you were traveling or something.
Yes. Yeah. November has things happening this year, but we'll see. We have some time, not a lot, because before you know it, we're saying how the CFP deadline is here. But yeah, we should have conversations, multiple conversations about kind of good possible talks.
Yeah.
I have a high bar for that should have not been a talk. That should have not been a talk, personally. So doesn't mean that there won't be one or can't be one, but my my bar is high, as I say. So
Well, it should, because it's
yeah.
like for KubeCon, the bar is very high anyway. So submitting talks that are just average are not gonna make it. So it's important to kind of like, if you have that bar that feels like it's a good, like that makes it, because you're really gonna think about the topic. And then
I feel like if I'm going to pull people in and they're going to spend their time at a conference that, they could also watch the talks on YouTube anyway, like if they're going to actually come to the talk, it better be pretty great, is the way I look at it. If I were, presenting something. So
that's a very good attitude. I wish more people had that.
and there's a lot of things that we can all talk about that we've done, but
Yeah.
does it warrant? So this is a little bit of my sort of, how my bar comes to be. Does it warrant me or some other person as a particular speaker getting up and talking about a thing? Just because I've done something or I know something or I am even good at demonstrating it doesn't mean that it justifies a talk, in my opinion. So I'm happy to hear otherwise from other people. I'm happy to be told, no, like it's still worth, you should say these things about whatever topic. But that's my current opinion about when I think about giving talks. It's easy for me to shoot ideas down because I think that, well, 100 people could talk about this. It doesn't necessarily need to be me. So we should have, some sort of dialogue. Maybe we could do it async in Slack, or on some other call, not to burn more time here, but I'm interested in this. What kind of talks are useful for people? How do we find that out? How do we do a little bit of market research, as it were, whatever, for topics? So
sounds great. By the way, I do have this, like I always have, like in 5 minutes I have another talk, so I always have to make this one shorter. So KubeCon is coming up. We have the panel hopefully, and then like for the next one where we'll plan ahead, and because we're and submit some good talks. I'm gonna send this to Joyce for the Slack deck to see if she has feedback. So we could kind of think about what is the next step. So or what is the next? What would be like a good resource? So things that we've been doing for the deaf and hard of hearing working group is, for instance, like I mentioned it before, best practices for conferences that then we can send to the CNCF, right? If there is something important, or a Linux Foundation, sorry, if there's something important we would want them to know and prepare for before Alex goes to Atlanta, for example, like what would that be?
Right.
Other things one thing that I really want to work on, and I think Anastasia, one of our members, will take the lead, is a document. I just wanted to show like the kind of documents, maybe to spark some ideas, is like some guidance when you're interviewing a candidate that is deaf, what you should know, right? Like for instance, I'm just giving the deaf example because like I know those things. I don't know what would be the case, or if there is something like that would be relevant for blind or visually impaired. For instance, one thing that's important for deaf people is that they can take the interpreter they know, because there are a lot of technical, like if they know their communication style and so on, otherwise they may just interpret wrongly what they're saying or miss it, and then the deaf person looks like they don't really know what they're talking about.
There's a valuable rapport there that makes a big difference.
Kind of understanding that, and that's a lot of people who are interviewing deaf people just don't know. They disregard their request and just take the cheaper interpreter or whatever, and they don't, because they don't understand why. Kind of like, and then kind of having like a document that explains why it's X is important. Why do we need this? For instance, should I don't know, like things like that. So this would be a different use case. This is like if a deaf person has an interview, they could send that document, and the nice thing, it is published on a CNCF website, which gives it a little bit more authority versus like in an email, me asking for certain things where they might think, oh, you're just being difficult, right? Yeah, so that would be kind of like a direction. We also have how like a tool that small community events can use for captions that is free, and how to use it. So those are the things that we have for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing working group. So I'm wondering, yeah, what would be the next thing that you think would be valuable for this group?
I mean, I'll look at the doc that that's the
Mhm.
result of the interviews that Stefan has done, but my sort of initial reaction is probably the um, you know, good practices, recommended practices for conferences type of thing, which is also something we had a bit of dialogue about in a Slack thread like a few weeks back as well. That feels like a reasonable thing to sort of knock out some good content for. So maybe if I read that interview results doc, something else will strike me as even better. But having not looked at that yet, the conference doc seems like a good one.
Yeah, and the good thing is like it's applicable right away because we have one of our members going. So it will
Right,
be,
and I don't know how, I don't, not to speak for Alex, like, he may be like, oh, I'm going to just speak for myself and, like send an email to whoever and it'll be fine. Or maybe he'd appreciate a doc, or I don't know, but yes, as a possibility, I agree. Like that could be
yeah.
useful.
Well, hopefully he will participate in the doc.
Right. Yeah.
Because the
sure.
idea is that you don't have to repeat yourself every single time. It's like
Mhm.
here's a doc that they can refer to. And then like again, if you're going to a different conference, kind of say like, hey, by the way, here is the best practices. Like, can you make sure these things are provided?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I have to hop because I have the other meeting, but I'm excited that we have something to share with Joyce and get feedback and and hopefully we can publish this, and that will be our very first piece of.
Yeah, and if you want to send, I'm not. I created my doc as a response to my own feedback.
Mhm.
Putting my money where my mouth is there. And I'm happy if you share both of them or whatever things you want to give her to consider. So
So
Okay.
okay, so it's the
Yes, I just would like to say before you leave, I will take care to create an issue on the GitHub tax contributor strategy to open a new section for blind and visually impaired.
yep,
So
perfect.
when the document will be available, it will be only if you click away to publish the document. So we'll take care to create
wonderful.
an issue and contact the maintainer of the website to check how to manage to create this section, etc.
Okay, yeah, I'll look at the PR and see like where the content should go. That sounds good.
Awesome. I'm excited.
All
Okay,
right.
well, I'm gonna hop off and talk to you on Slack.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
See you all.
Bye. Ah, bon, il est parti. Ok, aussi.